Oleksandr Usyk refusing to bulk up too much as he points to Andy Ruiz Jr.'s weight with Anthony Joshua and says, refrigerator 1. Usyk a madman, you know. So Usyk is basically saying that the reason he's not over putting a lot of weight on is because, as to quote Usyk, he says that, why did I not put too much weight on? Because, well, you can see if you put too much weight, it slows you down. And by the example of Andy Ruiz, it shows that, putting too much weight doesn't help. And, that cost him the fight in the rematch against Joshua. I mean, Usyk is saying the right things, really. I mean, he has put a bit of stuff on, he's put a bit of fat on. But he has to, Any man that go up to heavyweight, they had to put something on from cruiserweight. Look at David Haye, Evander Holyfield. These guys, they didn't put too much on, but they had to move those zeros around in terms of putting weight on. And Usyk is a guy that relies a lot on his movement, so it would have been wise for him not to do too much weight pushing. And he can outbox these guys. Someone made a statement saying the Usyk of the cruiserweight couldn't beat an Usyk. So the Usyk at cruiserweight, his weight, his style, whatever, be somebody at heavyweight, he couldn't win. And I said no. I think the Usyk at cruiserweight beats a lot of heavyweights. Do you know what I'm saying? And anything past that Usyk in terms of bulking up is an unknown quantity in terms of, for me, in terms of what he can do. Because against Chazz Witherspoon, where he weighed a bit more, he did look a bit sloppy. He was getting touched up more. His feet were as quick. You know what I'm saying? His boxing brain was still there. He knew what to do, but his body wasn't doing the right thing. And when you're moving up to heavyweight, it's always been, in heavyweight history, the pressure has always been, be big, be strong, be powerful. It's always been it. All the great heavyweights that were great boxers, they didn't really get the limelight they deserved. Look at Larry Holmes, fantastic boxer. Underrated, fantastic jab. I mean, you look at Larry Holmes' record in terms of before he came out for his comeback. This guy was fantastic. He was catching up to Rocky Marciano. Larry Holmes was one of the most underrated heavyweights, and his style wasn't necessarily go in and pound you and get you out of there and have power shots. No, his style was, I can box. This man could box. He showed he could box in the amateurs. He showed he could box from long range. He knew how to use his physical attributes well. That's something that Larry Holmes perfected. But because of his attitude outside the ring and the kind of personality he had, and also because of his style, he wasn't really put up there as one of the greatest heavyweights. Although he has a record and he's held the heavyweight titles before, so he should be. Do you know what I'm saying? You got someone like Mike. Mike is, to this day, we'll talk about Mike in another video, but to this day he's seen as one of the best heavyweights ever. It's not because, of his personalities per se, although he was seen as the baddest man on the planet at the time, but it was because he was knocking guys out, and this guy didn't weigh heavy. He was a small heavyweight. The man was 5'10". Light. But he was a proper heavyweight. Pure bulk, small rip. Thick head, thick neck, thick legs, thick hands, thick arms, everything. And he was just on you. He would go in there from the first round and get you out of there. This was in the late 80s. If you don't know about Mike, ask about Mike. I'm going to do another video about Mike and Roy in a minute. But what I'm trying to say in this video is the history of big, powerful heavyweights. The fans, especially the casual fans, have always loved it. And Usyk boxing and making guys, a bit like Lomachenko, making guys quit, making guys the pressure, maybe a few stoppages where they've overpowered you, that ain't going to impress people. You've got to get guys out there. One of the reasons why Anthony Joshua was so big, and at the time when he was coming up in the UK, he grew so well, is because he was getting guys out of there. It doesn't matter if you're fighting journeyman. The fact that you're getting them out, that you're building a nice knockout ratio, that you've got power punches, it really puts you in a good esteem. And Usyk, I hope the pressure doesn't get to him. I hope he doesn't feel like I need to get these guys out of there, I need to prove a point, because one of the greatest cruiserweights of all time was Evander Holyfield, and he wasn't the biggest puncher. Oh no, Holyfield was not a big puncher. You know what I'm saying? Especially when he came up. This was a man that, when he moved up to heavyweight, went the distance against George Foreman, an old George Foreman that guys were expecting him to get rid of. Yeah, he knocked out Buster Douglas, but he struggled with Burt Cooper, and he stopped him, but, he didn't put Cooper down, he stopped him, on his feet. And Cooper rocked him hard, dropped him. He also fought guys like Michael Dokes, going life and death with guys like Michael Dokes. Evander Holyfield went the distance multiple times. And people were saying, this guy can't beat Tyson, this guy can't beat Bo. This guy ain't got the power to hurt Bo. He ain't got the power to hurt Tyson. He ain't got the power to deal with Lennox. Multiple times, guys said that. But look at Holyfield. He won the heavyweight title. He beat Mike Tyson. He beat Riddick Bowe. He fought everybody. You can't complain about Evander Holyfield's record or resume, can you? So, for Usyk to be great, I agree with what he's saying. I mean, Andy Ruiz went out of weight, but that's an extreme case of putting too much weight. That's an extreme case. Sometimes weight can be a positive. Sometimes weight can be a negative. It's what kind of weight you're putting on. Is it fat or is it muscle? It all depends. But Usyk's saying the right thing. He's got to focus on, especially against Chisora, the blueprint to beat Chisora is out there. Movement he doesn't like. We saw that against Gashi. We saw that if he's take a good jab, like Tyson Fury did, and move around. Even Dillian White in the second fight, he moved around. He pivoted a lot more in that fight. He pivoted well. He tied him up. And the blueprint to beat Chisora is there. The blueprint to not fight Chisora is also there. Dillian White Takam, especially Dillian White in the first fight, going to war, trying to fight on the inside. I mean, Takam was beating him up on the inside, but the thing about Takam is he had no respect for Chisora in terms of the offense, that he left himself open. And this Chisora looking more powerful than he was in the past. So Usyk's got to be careful and he's got to be smart and not give in to pressure of trying to get a big finish and put on too much muscle. But he's saying the right things, isn't he? He's saying the right things.